Colorado just recently adopted pro-marijuana stance or decriminalized it. So did the state of Washington. Should New Mexico?
Well, I certainly think that this is an initiative that all states ought to consider and adopt. The prohibition policy has not worked. We've tried this for better than 4 decades. It has created all sorts of problems, both here in the United States and for a lot of America's neighbors. It's filling our prisons with drug law offenders, ruining a lot of lives, and yet the main effect has been to enrich the drug trafficking organizations in Mexico and elsewhere. This is a fatally failed policy, and I'm happy to see states move away from it.
Okay, let's say that we had a complete end to the, quote, prohibition of marijuana, for example, throughout the United States. If we had that, how do we know that it would defang the cartels in Mexico?
Well, the cartels get their revenues from primarily the illegal drug trade. 85 to 90% of the price of drugs on the streets is due to the factor of illegality. If you end prohibition, you do a massive reduction in the revenues available to these violent drug gangs.
How would that
That's
work, though? If you get rid of the prohibition, what would happen to the cartels?
Well, the cartels would have to search for new sources of revenue, and it's really impossible to replace the extent of the revenues that they get from the illegal drug trade. They would try with kidnapping, with extortion, with other things, and they might replace part of that revenue flow, but they're certainly not going to replace all or even most of it. The cartels would be much, much weaker, far less of a threat to the Mexican government, far less of a threat to the governments in Central America, and they would be less able to cause problems for the United States. All of these are major gains.
I talked to an FBI agent, a retired FBI agent last week, and he said that there aren't that many people who are in federal and state prisons strictly for smoking a joint. That there are some people who are there on drug-related charges, mostly it's because of dealing and because of violence. Is that true?
Only partially true. Most of them there are because of dealing drugs, but most of them are small-time dealers. They're not big drug lords. They're not major traffickers. They're small-time pushers. Some are there because of violence associated with the trade. A majority are not. They're there on non-violent drug charges.